The scent of aged paper and slow-brewing coffee was Emily Carter's sanctuary. She didn't just work at the Last Page bookstore. She lived inside its walls, charting her life by the shifting dust motes caught in the afternoon sunlight and the comforting weight of hard covers in her hands. The Last Page was more than just a family business. It was the quiet heart of Havenwood. For 30 years, it had been a reliable anchor against the tides of change, surviving the arrival of big-box retailers and the digital onslaught. But reliability, Emily was learning, wasn't enough to pay the heating bill anymore. Emily, 16 and often preferring the company of fictional heroes to real people, had noticed the signs for months. Her father, usually buoyant, spending evenings hunched over ledgers, the faint aroma of worry replacing the comforting scent of ink. The definitive, cold hard proof arrived on a Tuesday in late October. Emily found her mother, her usually vibrant face pale with exhaustion, taping a small, mournful sign to the inside of the front window. Notice of closure. End of month. Emily's breath caught, sucking the air out of the room. The silence felt enormous. "Mom, what is this?" Her mother, Linda, turned, forcing a tired smile. I was trying to wait until your dad got here. It's just, the city raised the property tax assessment again, and sales haven't recovered since the pandemic. We've tapped everything, sweetie. It's time to admit defeat. Emily's stomach plummeted. Defeat wasn't an option. Not for the Last Page. This store wasn't just inventory. It was the place where she'd learned to read under the oak ladder, where local poets held open mics, and where Mrs. Albright came every Friday for a mandatory 5-minute rant about politics before buying a historical romance novel. "No," Emily said, the word barely a whisper, then louder. "No, Mom. We can't just let it go." Linda sighed, folding Emily into a hug that smelled faintly of vanilla and despair. "We've tried, honey. We truly have. Sometimes trying isn't enough." That night, Emily sat in her room, the spine of her favorite paperback digging into her palm. She wasn't just losing a store, she was losing her identity. The world outside felt sharp and hostile, filled with sleek screens and ephemeral trends. The Last Page was tangible, real, and necessary. The next morning at Havenwood High, she found her best friend, Linda, who, confusingly, shared her mom's name, but not her generation, already waiting. Linda was the opposite of Emily. Loud, pragmatic, and organized to a fault. "Okay, I saw your Instagram post this morning," Linda announced, bypassing any greeting. "A simple black square saying the end is dramatic, but it doesn't give me numbers. How much do you guys need?" Emily blinked, momentarily stunned by her friend's directness. "I don't know, 30,000? To cover the tax bill and get us through the lean winter months." "It's impossible." "Impossible is just a big number that hasn't been broken down yet," Linda countered, pulling out a colorful notebook. "We need a campaign. We need to raise $1,500 every day for the next 20 days. We'll start with physical sales, a bake sale, maybe a silent auction of signed first editions." Emily felt a flicker of hope, but immediately dismissed it. "That's cute, Linda, but it won't cut it. Nobody buys bake sale cookies for 30 grand. And half the people in town don't even know we're closing yet." Linda tapped her pencil impatiently. "Then we need someone who understands scale. We need the digital megaphone." That megaphone belonged to London. London was a senior, known less for his academic achievements and more for his flawless aesthetic and ability to make anything trend on local channels. He usually occupied a different orbit from the quiet bookworms. Emily found him in the digital media lab, editing a stunning drone video of the football team. He looked up, his expression guarded. "Carter, right? Your family owns that old place downtown," London said, without any inflection. "The Last Page," Emily corrected automatically. "It's closing. We need help." London leaned back, crossing his arms. "Look, I respect the sentiment. But physical books, that's peak nostalgia content. It's hard to monetize nostalgia." "It's not nostalgia. It's community," Emily insisted, feeling her voice tremble. This was harder than arguing with a fictional villain. Where else do kids go after school when the library is closed? Where do people find books that aren't algorithms telling them what they should want? London paused, considering her. "Okay, pitch me the story. Not the book, the building. Emily took a deep breath. She started talking about the low-slung, slightly tilted shelf by the science fiction section where she'd hidden as a child. She talked about the way her dad reviewed every book before putting it out, ensuring it was a genuine recommendation, not just a bestseller. She talked about the way light spilled onto the reading chairs in the morning. When she finished, London was tapping rapidly on his keyboard. Fine. I see the angle. We don't sell books, we sell the vibe. We save the last real third place in Havenwood. Here's the deal. Linda handles the physical logistics, the events, the cash registers. I handle the online presence, the urgency, the visual appeal, the digital donations. You, Emily, are the face. You're the story. You have to tell people why this matters, not just what the cost is. Emily swallowed hard. Being the face meant talking to people, being visible, being vulnerable. It was terrifying, but the alternative was silence. The next day, the campaign launched. Linda organized the Penny for a Page drive, appealing to every small business in Havenwood to keep a collection jar. She marshaled the retired ladies' knitting circle to contribute handmade items for the silent auction. London, meanwhile, executed a digital masterstroke. He created a website that wasn't about pity, but about necessity. He filmed the store in soft, cinematic light, making the chaotic stacks look like glorious monuments. He used drone shots of the town, emphasizing how the bookstore stood alone against the sterile, chain store landscape. The hashtag Save the Last Page started to ripple across local social media. For her part, Emily found herself constantly on camera, albeit awkwardly. She did a series of 10-second bookstore confessions, sharing her favorite reading nook or an embarrassing childhood memory involving a broken stack of poetry. She felt exposed, but the immediate heartening feedback was addictive. People remembered those shelves. They remembered the smell. But the real-world obstacles were pressing. After 1 week, they had raised a respectable $9,000. Not nearly enough. The closing date was only 12 days away. We need an exponential gain, London declared during their strategy session, pacing the narrow poetry aisle. A local news segment, maybe? A celebrity endorsement. We need presence, Linda corrected. We need to remind people that the donation link is real, but the store needs their physical bodies, too. We need one huge, irresistible event. Emily, clutching a worn copy of a fantasy novel, looked up. An idea, wild and fully formed, struck her. A memory of a community reading circle she'd overheard years ago. We host a 24-hour readathon, Emily said, the words tumbling out quickly. Starting Friday evening, running straight through Saturday night. Everyone brings their sleeping bags. We have live music, local authors reading excerpts. It makes the news because it's weird and persistent. London, you stream the entire thing. Linda, you handle the vendors and the hot coffee. Linda gaped. London whistled softly. A 24-hour live stream? That's insane. High risk, high reward. I love it. The Save the Shelves Saturday readathon became a frantic, chaotic reality. The local community, energized by the digital urgency, responded with overwhelming enthusiasm. Friday night saw the first wave, teenagers, drawn by London's aesthetic and the promise of late-night coffee and social media clout, filling the aisles. Emily's parents, seeing the swell of support, finally allowed a fragile hope to bloom in their eyes. Linda, wearing a headset and directing traffic, looked like a military commander. London had set up professional lighting and sound, and his laptop screen showed hundreds of viewers tuning in. As the night wore on, the mood shifted from novelty to genuine commitment. At 2 a.m., a local history professor read a dramatic passage by candlelight. At 4 a.m., Emily found herself reading a chapter of Moby Dick to a cluster of sleepy, giggling friends. She was tired, her voice was scratchy, but for the first time, she felt connected to every face in the room. However, by Saturday afternoon, the energy started to dip, and critically, the fund tracker on London's website stalled at $22,000. They were $8,000 short, with the final deadline mere hours away. We're flatlining, London muttered, checking the live comments feed. We need something big to push engagement. I think we need to tell them the truth, Emily whispered, looking at the tired faces of her parents beside the register. We need to let them know how close we are to failing. She walked over to the microphone, her hands shaking. This was the moment she had dreaded the most, standing in front of a crowd, exposed, without a character to hide behind. She felt every eye in the bookstore, and every unseen digital eye on the stream, focused solely on her. "Hi," she began, the word cracking slightly. Linda rushed over with a glass of water. "Thank you all for being here. This has been incredible." She looked down at the floor, then forced herself to look up, scanning the faces of her neighbors, her teachers, the kids she usually avoided in the hallway. The last page is not a perfect store. The carpet is threadbare, the Wi-Fi is terrible, and the mystery section is notoriously disorganized, she managed, eliciting a few nervous chuckles. But it is ours. When I was little, the smell of these books meant safety. It meant possibility. It meant that even if the world outside was confusing, there was always a story here waiting to make sense of it. She paused, taking a shaky breath. "We are $8,000 short, and the deadline is tonight. If we don't make it, my parents lose their life's work. Havenwood loses its heart. And future kids won't have a place to discover that quiet magic, that moment when you realize a book understands you better than anybody else does." Tears pricked her eyes, but she held them back. This wasn't about her sadness, it was about their shared fight. "We didn't start this fight to save a building, we started it to save our story. Please, if you can spare anything, we need you now." She stepped back, breathless, handing the microphone to London. He wasted no time, spinning the camera to show the closing sign he had pulled down earlier, now resting against the donation jar. The immediate reaction was profound. Online donations flooded the website. London's phone buzzed incessantly. Physically, people started lining up at the counter, not just buying books, but adding extra 50s and 100s to their purchases. A flurry of comments appeared on the live stream. One read, "Just donated $500. Saw your dad give me my first copy of Harry Potter 20 years ago. Pay it forward, Havenwood." A notification pinged on London's screen, displaying a huge incoming donation. He leaned closer, his eyes wide. "Wait a minute. We just got a donation of $5,000. Anonymous, but it cleared the account." A roar went up in the store. People cheered, hugged, and cried. With the anonymous donation and the continuing stream of community giving, the fund tracker climbed rapidly. $28,500, $29,200, $30,012. The entire bookstore erupted. Emily stood next to her parents, who were clinging to each other, tears streaming down their exhausted faces. Linda pulled Emily into a tight, celebratory hug. "You did it, Em. You found the words." Linda shouted over the noise. London, still beaming, turned off the live stream, tapping his screen. "The last page is saved." And Emily Carter just went viral. In the blur of triumph, Emily looked around at the joyful chaos. The store was a mess of sleeping bags, empty coffee cups, and stacks of donated books. But it was alive. In the weeks that followed, the store wasn't just saved, it was revitalized. The fundraising success had attracted new customers. Emily's parents, energized by the community's passion, agreed to a few changes. Linda helped organize a streamlined inventory system. London, true to his word, became the store's digital curator, managing a beautiful, engaging social media presence that connected the physical store with the global conversation. As for Emily, she was no longer hiding behind the shelves. She helped run the monthly writer's workshop, using the confidence she'd found on the stage. She discovered that being vulnerable didn't make her weak, it made her relatable, and it unlocked the power of collective action. One quiet afternoon, Emily was shelving new releases when her father came over, his arm looped around a steaming mug of coffee. "You know, I thought the age of handwritten notes and shared public spaces was over," he said, watching a group of high schoolers laugh over a board game in the new community corner. Emily smiled, dusting the spine of a new fantasy novel. "It was never over, Dad. We just forgot that connection is a story, too. And when you give people the beginning of a good story, they're always going to rally to help you write the ending." The last page was no longer just a struggling relic. It was a testament to what a small town could achieve when it decided its shared history was worth fighting for. And Emily, the quiet girl who loved books, had finally found her powerful voice, realizing that the greatest stories weren't always bound in leather. but lived in the heart of her community. That will be all for today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. Goodbye.